so help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
From D.C. to DFW, the President Trump era begins. Today, a prominent Republican and Democrat talk about the possible sweeping changes ahead. Good Sunday morning to you, and welcome to Lone Star Politics. I'm Corey Smith in for Christy Nelson, but here to see me through, as always, Gromer Jeffers with the Dallas Morning.
Corey, what a remarkable few days watching history, right?
It was. It's pretty fun to watch. And we start with the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first.
In his first speech as president, Donald Trump promised to add new jobs and wipe out terrorism. The president then visited the Central Intelligence Agency yesterday. Celebrations have been shadowed by reports that the CIA is investigating Russian interference in the presidential election on behalf of Donald Trump. Here in Texas, you may remember Congressman Michael Burgess, one of the first people to endorse Trump. He even introduced him at a Dallas campaign rally last June. Representative Burgess joins us today. I remember that rally was a hot day. Not as hot as Friday, I got to think. Even in the cold weather of Washington, D.C., what was it like being out there?
Oh, for an inauguration, it's unlike anything else. I've been fortunate enough. This was the fourth inauguration that I've been to, and there is a certain amount of majesty to our system that is front and center on display during the inaugural process. You had all of the former presidents who were on the stage. Jimmy Carter being there with the diagnosis he had a year and a half ago, and because of American medicine, American ingenuity, he's able to walk down that to that podium for the inauguration. There was just a lot of stuff was on display that day.
We hear so much about the peaceful transition of power. I got to think it's more than words. What is it like to actually see it in person, to see, two presidents standing side by side with one another?
Well, I do remember a time when there were no former presidents. That was a time during President Nixon's administration after Lyndon Johnson had passed away. And, I think the president is better if there are former presidents around. It does seem to make the office. I suspect there's a lot of discussion that goes on behind the scenes from the person who has previously occupied the office to the one who's there now having to make all the decisions. It's a tough job.
What do you think about Trump's speech? For a lot of people, it didn't deviate much from his campaign speech. Do you think he did enough to reach out to about half of Americans who didn't support him?
Well, look, as a member of and this was so interesting. I mean, he's chiding Republican and Democratic establishment politicians and, of course, lobbyists and the Washington way, and we're sitting behind him. He doesn't turn around and look at us at any point. He is talking to the people straight in front. Is that unusual? Yeah, perhaps. But I'll tell you, I was reminded when Ronald Reagan gave the Time for Choosing speech, where he talked about a far-off band of elites on the East Coast, right, make the decisions for all the rest of us. I think it was exactly the speech that America needed to hear.
First up, Affordable Care Act. Is it possible to repeal and replace the same day? And what do you say to people who are worried, include Judge Clay Jenkins to be it later, about repealing health care and not putting something back that will, help people get health care, but also take relief off of places like Parkland Hospital and other entities like that?
Well, look, first off, would it really be acceptable to do nothing? Is the Affordable Care Act working so well that you can just simply say, hey, great, we're done with that, let's go?
Say yes.
Yeah, I beg to differ. And it is not, Gromer, and you know that. So doing nothing is not an option. Look at the insurance meltdown that is going to occur if something different does not happen quickly. Now, look, the things that happen from a legislative perspective, yes, they will take time. Many of my constituents will be angry because it does take time, but it will take time. The president himself has said, be careful, but he also said he wants it to occur simultaneously, where you move from what is the current system to what will be the new system. I will be on one of the committees that works through that. We will have As far as I can tell, the Speaker of the House is committed to an open and regular order process. People's voices will be heard in both the subcommittee, the full committee, debates on the floor of the House. The Senate will have to concur. Here's the problem with the Affordable Care Act. Of all the big health policy pieces that I've seen in my short tenure in Congress, the Affordable Care Act was done by one party, one side, one way. That's really at the seat of its problems. You're going to have both engaged in this, and both sides will have to have ownership.
Real quick, what do you say to those folks who are concerned, who have insurance under the Affordable Care Act now and who are looking at this repeal? What is the message to them?
The message to them, first off, is that nothing is going to happen dramatically right now. What could happen dramatically right now is if we don't do something, and you have large insurance companies who are saying we could be in trouble, not next year, not the year after, this year. So we are going to have to do things to stabilize the insurance market. There are things that will not be, things that really will be hard for me politically that I'm not anxious to do, but we will have to take those steps. President Obama was taking money for the Insurance Stabilization Fund from the Treasury without an appropriation. We will probably be called upon to make that appropriation. I don't think Donald Trump will want to continue that activity of, again, unconstitutionally taking money from the Treasury and putting it into this stabilization fund. Somehow we're going to have to come to an agreement on that. If we don't, that's the real risk. Most people don't understand that. That's the real risk that's just really, literally 60 to 90 days away.
Do you think we build the wall and make Mexico pay for it as Trump wants to do?
I'm all for it.
You think that happens?
You know, and I think, I will tell you this, and of course Donald Trump has been to the border. President Obama would not go to the border, as you'll recall. I hope the president does make another trip to the border, talks to the folks of the Border Patrol, not the political appointees, but the people who actually do the work of protecting us and enforcing our border laws. I would like to see that happen.
Yes or no, comprehensive immigration reform with doing something with the people here illegally?
Border security first. It has always been that way.
That means it won't happen.
And that is why I think the president should go to the border and to understand what is going to be required to establish security.
All right, that is our time. Thank you so much.